Hey, it's Hunt. You found Hunt on Saints. We're talking black and gold football. Do us a favor. Hit the like button, share your comments below, and hit that subscription button so you can get all of our content. Enjoy. Came across this piece on ESPN.com that Bill Barnwell wrote, and it's talking season for the NFL draft. I think in earnest, starting Monday, we really get into like specific players and maybe targeting some things in the late rounds. But I mean, there's like a 2-month span of like mock draft this, mock draft that, mock draft that. And I have a hard time doing that for 2 months. Because when you look at the Saints mock draft, it's always like 3 guys. Olu Fashano's like always on there. You find some Brock Bowers there from time to time. Maybe some J.C. Latham. And at times you might get a Leatu Latu pass rusher from UCLA. But it's not really that varied. So I don't find it super interesting, quite frankly, and haven't spent a lot of time on that. But this was different. In this mock draft, Bill Barnwell puts together a trade for everyone. Certainly not anticipating that every single team is going to make a trade, but what's possible? And I will say that the scenario that he paints at 14 makes no sense to me on a number of levels, except that the Saints do this stuff all the time. So I can't totally rule it out. I mean, y'all know the Saints front office. How quickly can we ditch these draft picks that are yet to come to move up a few spots to get one guy? It happens more than it doesn't, quite frankly. And we all expect it to happen at some point in round 2 or 3 when they offload some of these 5th-round picks that we know they're not going to use. I would use them. They're not going to. We talked about this on Tuesday with Luke that the Rams drafted 14 dudes last year, and they found really good players in the 5th round. Now, some of the guys got cut, but they filled some holes with cheap players because they used draft picks. The Saints don't believe in that. We're not using these draft picks except for to trade them to go get one guy. And sometimes one guy is really good, and sometimes one guy can't play a lick. But it's one guy. So in this scenario, Bill Barnwell has the Saints going up for one guy. It reads, if there's no market in the top 6 to move up for a quarterback, the Saints might be able to jump ahead of the line for their favorite offensive tackle in this class. The Chargers don't have to trade down and could comfortably consider a wide receiver or a tackle themselves at number 5, but they're also a team that could stand to add some extra draft capital. So are the Saints, of course, but why would Mickey Loomis start trading down in round 1 now? That's a funny line in the deal. So in this scenario, Barnwell has the Saints getting the 5th pick in this draft. To get there, you give the Chargers your number 14. You trade away your 2nd-round pick at 45. And you trade away Trevor Penning. Now, I don't think there is any world where the Chargers trade off of 5 to move back 9 spots to get a guy that the Saints deem can't play and a 2nd-round pick. I don't think that makes a ton of sense. But for the Saints, for the sake of this discussion, we'll leave the Chargers out of it. But just if you're talking about the Saints, does it make sense for the Saints to cut the line to get the best tackle on their board, where at 14 you might be looking at the 3rd or 4th tackle on your board? Does that matter enough to you to mortgage a pick later on? My suggestion would be no. I believe you've got to trust your organization to be able to evaluate. I promise you, there are 4 guys in this NFL draft that can play tackle. I promise you. You have to find one of those guys at 14. And that's why Olu Fashanu continues to be mocked to the Saints, because he's generally thought of as the 3rd or best tackle in this draft. But do you feel like mortgaging another pick down the line to go get Joe Alt is worth it? I would say no. Do you feel like trading up? And by the way, the offensive tackles in this draft have some tough names, a lot of value. After Joe Alt, which I can handle, Olu Fashanu shortened his name so we could figure it out. Washington's tackle, Troy Fautanu, is another one that's thought to be a potential top 10 pick. And then you continue to move on J.C. Latham, and then you would get to Olufashano or Talise Fuaga from Oregon State, who's thought of as a top 20 pick anyway. Now, the Saints are going to have these guys scouted immaculately because this is the position they know they have to draft. So you will have done every bit of work on all of these guys. This is not some situation where guys fall and it's totally unforeseen and now you've got to scramble. Not at all. The Saints will have the top 10 tackles, probably the top 20 tackles in this draft, absolutely scouted from pillar to post because they can't afford to do it another way. You have to know so you have to trust that you have that figured out because you got too many holes on that roster to be moving up 9 spots when you're already sitting there at 14. Again, to say it a different way, there, in my opinion, is no chance that a good starting 8-year offensive tackle is unavailable at the 14th pick in this draft. One of these guys that will be available is going to be able to play. Excuse me, because you know the quarterbacks are coming off the board early, and you know the wide receivers are coming off the board early. And somebody's going to jump at a pass rusher. And they're just because of the math, there aren't 14 picks in front of you there to take these guys off the board. So to me, while it sounds appetizing, well, you offload Trevor Penning, second-round pick, and here we go. Let's get the best tackle in the draft. Okay, but what's the difference between the number 1 tackle that's taken and the next best tackle in this draft? People seem to think it's a really deep tackle draft. I would have to stay put. That's going to be my chorus of the next week for the New Orleans Saints. It's going to be show a little bit of patience. Show a little bit of patience. I cheerleaded and applauded the Saints being aggressive in the Breeze era, in that Peyton era. Do it. You're right there knocking on the door. Go get Brandon Cooks. Well, didn't work. Go get Mark Ingram. Go get Marcus Davenport. Well, didn't work. But fine. If you're convicted in it, go do it. Not now. Get some cheap guys that can play. Quit trading draft picks to go get one dude, and then he can't play, and now what? It's the chorus I sing all the time when I'm breaking down the draft, but it's unavoidable at this point. I don't think that the Chargers are in a hurry to move back 9 spots in this draft to take on Trevor Penning. I realize Ryan Slater has got one side. You're bringing him in to compete on the other side or as a swing player, but I think that's a bad idea, and I don't think it makes a lot of sense. But the possibility of the Saints mortgaging some of that draft capital behind them to move up a few spots is very possible. I'm saying no, no, no. Somebody at 14 can help you, and you got to make some picks on the back end to help you at receiver, to potentially help you at running back, to help you at pass rusher, to supplement your depth at linebacker. You've got to do that. You're not in position to ditch assets to get one because your track record. If you had hit on all these guys you traded up for, I would have full trust in you. But you need to allow some margin for error. And when you keep trading away draft picks and narrowing how many draft picks you're able to select, your margin for error goes away. And you end up with some of these draft classes you've had with no results. I'm not saying you've got to do it like you did in 17 and just hit. Like, that's hard to do. But it's easier to hit on 4 guys if you make 8 or 9 picks than it is if you make 4. Don't trade up. Don't trade up. Don't trade up. Don't trade up. Hey, it's Hunt. Thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.